So, welcome back, everyone, and for TD's Idea Machines who joined us here. In our first part of our workshop, we discussed intelligent life, and what does that mean to us in our real life as human beings living in the world in which we do. And that involved discussions on a great many things. I'll be sure to review it, but I want to make sure we're all caught up. Also, hi, Mushio. Can I get a shout out to Mushio? Oh, wait, no, Mushio? Wait, Mushio, you stream, right? Or do you not stream? I forgot. I forgot if you started streaming your game or not. Maybe not. I don't know. Sorry, I was a little... Okay, I thought I remembered something like that. I mean, if you want a shout out, then you can ask a mod. Oh, work life taking over? Yep. Good. This is the hip language, Mushio. We got to have a conference about work-life balance, about blue sky opportunities and opening the kimono, about low-hanging fruit, and other corpo jargon, in order, you know, to increase our optics in an optimal manner. No, I want the fantasy. Hi, Diesel Shot. Great to see you. Now, for sure, I guess the race is on between Daily or Raven. Can I get a shout out to Diesel Shot, please? Hard Spaceship Breaker OST for tops for chill contemplating. Now, Idea Machine, or if you want me to call you TD, or however that works for you, you know, what are some of your ideas? What is your interaction with workshopping or role-playing as the storyteller or as the player? And don't worry, Mushio, I promise we're gonna get into the fantasy aspect here. And we're also looking at butts. So there you go, everyone. I hope that you enjoy butts, because that is, we're going to be looking at them a little bit here in our understanding of things, and why intelligent life appreciates butts, I guess. Though we did go over many things here about human evolution. We talked about our 5 ages of man. We went into the concepts and the differences of wisdom, or other words, as a sapience versus sentience. We watched a clip from 2001: A Space Odyssey, showcasing intelligent life. We talked about the earliest sign of a civilization wasn't just warfare, tool use, weapons, hunting tactics, and packs. It was the compassion shown for a healed femur. We discussed Maslow's hierarchy of needs as a way to lift oneself, and by oneself give back also to uplifting others and helping them reach self-actualization. And we wrapped things up with a condensed take on the story of Cain and Abel. You know, what it was written as and what it could allude to, in the sense of ages or retrospection, as signs of civilization, intelligent life, or, you know, as a looking back to a golden age, and even signs of compassion or control or other things. Now I am going to bring us back around to our article here about human evolution. Hi, Wally. Good to see you. What else did I miss? So, Diesel Shot, I'm going to give you a shout out. I guess I do not have my mods here. D-I-E-S-E-L-S-H-O-T. Shout out D-I-E-S-E-L-S-H-O-T. There we go. All right. So I hope you're doing well. Thank you for stopping by. So Wally's here. Mushio's here. Ready to Nap is here as well. TD is fine. Been GMing 5 years. Playing since I was little. Oh, you love a good sad story. Well, TD, you have found a channel that specializes in storytelling. That is our niche here on Twitch, and you can find our workshops and stories also on YouTube. And we are here to help each other be better storytellers, more contemplative developers of worlds, of characters, as players of those characters. That is primarily who we are and what we do. And you very much have a seat at our virtual table in this extension of a real-life brick-and-mortar friendly local game store. As that's what we do in the physical store, right? We welcome people to the hobby, we help teach them, or if there's someone like you that is very experienced, we can give you a space to offer your own advice, peer review, or mentoring to other people, to give your opinion on something, even if it's different from what someone else says. Because in those differences is the greatest amount of exploration to be had. Relic Rabbit, hello, good to see you. And Wally says, hello, longtime player / GM on many platforms and genres. Well, I hope you all can contribute here, because this is I mean, there's discussion in the prior section. In this part of the workshop, I want this to be us determining things for the world that we have been building through these, I'll call them lectures. I really hope they don't feel like lectures. Or at least through these processes of discovery and conversation. I guess that's a lecture. I don't know, maybe. TD says, you want a social life with friends, a passionate love life, as well as to work hard every day. What's true is of these three, you may have two, and two can pay you dividends, but never may have three. There isn't time enough, my friends, though dawn begins, yet midnight ends, to find the time to have love, work, and friends. Michelangelo had feelings for Vittoria and the ceiling, but did he go to parties at the day's end? Yeah, that's the classic, the three, present three things, you get two of them. Opportunity cost is a hell of a thing. Homer rightly went to banquets, rode all day, but had no lockets, bright with pictures of his girl. I know one who loves and parties, and has done so since his 30s, but writes hardly anything at all. Wally says, playing RPGs since 83 and DMGM since 88. Venerable. Very venerable, Wally. Alright, Hero Dragon goes into lurk mode. Now, why do I have a bunch of butts on the screen? I mean, maybe that's your thing. I don't know. Although this is PG-13, so I'm just gonna presume that this is for anatomical studies only, because now that we have discussed the fundamentals of intelligent life as we know it in our world as human beings, I want to extrapolate those ideas, and I want to create at least one intelligent creature in our fantasy world. And by the way, TD, thank you for writing as eloquently as you did. I appreciate that. And how we can see differences. Is the upright posture a sign of intelligence? It's an adaptation for sure. And what could have caused that? What could have brought about the changes in our brains? What could have brought about things over a timeline, over migration, over environmental stimuli? Because sometimes just having the physical ability to do something like this, which I mentioned opposable thumbs in the prior segment, does this make something intelligent? No. However, this might allow us to do more intelligent things. So I do urge you to review this stuff. You can read the article. You can go back and look at the sources that we had gone through in that primer. and see that, you know, there's just a lot of little things over time that add up. And as time and pressure, right? I think there's something, not just geologic, but that was brought up in the Shawshank Redemption, right? I don't think it was Green Mile. I think it was Shawshank Redemption that talks about time and pressure as well. Well, and we'll get to that, Big Bane. I promise. We are on the cusp. Wally says background and history is important to any race you create in a campaign. The level of background sets forth civilization versus herd mentality in a species. So for those of you just joining us, and by the way, this was Lucy that I talked about also in the last section here. What we have built so far over the course of these lectures and workshops. We started by talking about nothing, and then we created a universe, and we talked about different ways a universe could exist, perpetuate, and either diminish itself, oscillate, or who knows whatever else. So we created a universe. We then created a galaxy within it, and we created a solar system within the galaxy. Our world is one world of 13 planets. There are 2 suns. These are proposed, like, these are ways that we could have grouped them or whatever. Is this the hard and fast way that things happen? It doesn't have to be. It could be. Right? This is our fantasy world, and we're allowed to take liberties with it, even if we have an understanding of our hard sciences here as humans in our real world. So we created this. We then went through. We talked about how a planet forms, about how it gets ground down, spewed back up, elements are added to it, processes begin, and also that our planet has a ring, 2 moons, and one of those moons is actually geostationary. There's a geosynchronous moon, there's a medium density ring, and there's a second moon that quite possibly actually like just spins through this ice or debris or whatever else is here. So again, we just trust me, bro. We have talked about the sciences and philosophies and other things behind this enough to be dangerous and to be able to take it into a fantasy world. Then we went to the surface of the world. We made an island. We made a primordial soup. We talked about early life, not intelligent life, early life. The microorganisms. We talked about algae and bacteria. We talked about fungi and now more advanced plants and animals and how they perpetuate, how things might splash up here and evolve differently, and then they meet. And then maybe they go to war, or maybe they get along, you know, in a particular fashion. And it just keeps going. And wouldn't you know, we got to a point of life, probably no intelligent life, but we got to a point of life where we had our workshop on disasters. Continental drift, meteor strikes, volcanic winters. All kinds of fun stuff can almost completely destroy life on a planet. Just like that. Or over time. So, oh my gosh, we spent weeks making life, and now we almost destroyed it, but congratulations. Life survived that crucible, and is now, as our Pangea has broken up, because I'm sorry, this isn't a little island. This was actually like a supercontinent. We discussed continental drift, you know, plate tectonics and everything. And we have continents. Now, we haven't drawn them out or anything, but we have a world. The world still has life, and life that adapted to whatever the conditions were after the Great Disaster. And now it's time to pick a life. Whatever. You want it to be more mammalian, reptilian? You want it to be more bird-like, fish-like? Do you want it to be something else? And by introducing magic, or I mean, maybe that's the point of it, or it could be convergence of something, we actually then discussed the nature of magic in our fantasy world. We determined that whether or not our players, in whichever system this is going to be, whether our players know it or not, the moon or moons, but maybe that geosynchronous moon, there might be a reason for that. The source of magic is from the moons, or the moon. The medium through which magic travels is life that has adapted to receive it. Similar how life adapts to breathe oxygen, or carbon dioxide, or needs certain light levels, or whatever else. Magic can flow through life forms, intelligent or not, that has developed this as an ability. It could be a special organ. It could be just something that is similar to how some people just can't process milk or alcohol or something else, right? It's some people can eat asparagus without the after effect. It happens. Some people don't react to poison ivy. You want to talk about magic? But also some people are allergic to cats. Or if they eat a peanut, they will die. Magic works in mysterious ways, my friends. But magic works through life that has adapted to receive it, and receive it from the moon. And I didn't save it during the original contemplation of it. It is manifested by an application of will, which is why it was important in our discussion, in our primer on intelligent life, what the concept of will is going to be. So in D&D terms, we're talking about something that has an intelligence greater than 4. Now, if this was a game adapted for a different system, there might be other mechanical thresholds. I don't want to get hung up on the crunch of different rule systems. But the concept is, as we have explored, life that can process things like this, sapience and or sentience, there might be various thresholds. But intelligent life can certainly be, and maybe not all, for whatever reason, or all in a region, but not in others. But this is what we're going to be approaching. Now, my only other condition was that the intelligent life that we are going to create together in this workshop must not be human, and it also can't be human with a silly hat. Now, what do I mean by silly hat? If we say, oh, well, we're just gonna, in D&D terms, we're just going to make humans have long ears. We'll call them elves, but mechanically they're humans. That's a human with a silly hat. Well, maybe silly ears. Whatever we make can be humanoid. I'm fine with that. But I'm around enough humans that I want to challenge myself in our original fantasy world. What is at least one intelligent life form that can wield magic in out of workshop, or I guess out of character, as we're role playing as this in a sense? What is going to be at least a playable race to offer to our prospective players? Or if we determine that through that giant disaster that might have unleashed magic on the world and life adapted to it, is there particular sets of life such that in this fantasy world, while in a traditional D&D setting you might have humans and elves and dwarves and halflings, etc., etc., in ours, it's a, you know, it's a different set of starter Pokemon, right? So let's get to it. An intelligent shade of blue. I mean, if we can explain it, if a shade of blue has biological properties to be a life form that also can act with sapience and or sentience. I mean, what was in the very first episode of Star Trek Next Generation? It was the crystal, the crystal entity, the crystalline entity, I think it was called. Let me catch up in chat real quick, like here. Time and evolutionary pressure. Binary suns are interesting, says Big Banes. The elements of how deities are worshipped because of twin suns and twin moons would be amazing to set that in play. Wally, we will get to that. We will get to that, I promise. That is going to be here tomorrow. Tomorrow's workshop, we're creating an early culture to back up our intelligent life by establishing culture among people who can think, use tools, and might now begin having observations and practices and stories. And then to conclude our world building next week, on Wednesday, I want to talk about creating a religion. Then I want to talk about the technology that they create. And then we're going to create an economy for this intelligent species. And so hopefully you can join us for those workshops as well. Mushio says, Clefairy has emerged from the primordial goo. I read a book that had a magic organ. Very good book and interesting concept. Awkward Mater says, some people actually voluntarily eat asparagus. Can you imagine? Asparagus tastes good. It's just, I mean, can you handle what many people have as an after effect? Wally says, mana or ether used by the species that live in the new world that emerges. Big Bane says, I'm one of those people immune to poison ivy and other nasty plants. Oh, you're the rarity, huh? Make sure you have some of your like blood samples or something stored for the future. Not a technology, a biology to the magic, says Wally. Awkward Mancher says, what's the point of creating your own life if you cannot make cat girls? Alas, Douglas Adams already used intelligent shade of blue as a sapient race. Okay. Wally says, if the moons give the power, then a GIA elemental form. Can you define that for me? Made from the very essence of the planet. Jenny says, so here is where my brain is going. Moons affect tides. One of the closest creatures to humans in terms of intelligence or sapience is cetaceans, aka dolphins and whales. So what about a Selkie or a merfolk? If it's aquatic, and so what we can do, let's do this. So I want you in chat. There's 46 of you watching right now. I will open up a poll, and you all will get the chance to vote in that poll about the kind of life that you would like to uplift. And we'll start with a broad category and we'll narrow it down. So I love having interactive workshops, and that is exactly what we are going to do. Let's go back here. So let's open up a poll. Now we know that we have land masses, we have seas, we also have fresh water. This is going to be primarily where our uplifted species is going to exist. Now, if we want something else that is something like an amphibian, which is a combination, right? It's aquatic and terrestrial, or sometimes you get like mud skipper, which are like a fish that can go on the land and breathe out. You know, hybrids are fine too. But right now, I'm leaving a poll open for 2 minutes. I want you to vote. Everyone gets a vote. I want you to vote on which type of intelligent life we're going to create on this world. Your 3 choices are aquatic life. Now that could be mammalian, that could be fish, ictilian, ichthyes. That could be just an aquatic reptile. I'm not looking at like species yet. This is primarily just the domain that they live. We as an intelligent species are terrestrial. And we uplifted ourselves, or we're uplifted by a deity or something else. And there we go. In our world, is the primary intelligent life going to be aquatic? And maybe the aquatic learns how to fly. There's a balloon sack or something. Or the aquatic goes on land time and again. Or it splits off. Because, of course, aquatic life eventually came onto the land. Who knows? But the primary territory, right? The origin. So everyone gets a vote. I see 8 people of our 49 watching have voted. The poll should be located up at the top. There's not a lot of votes. Get your votes in, everyone. About 30 seconds remain. Vote on the type of intelligent life you want to create right here and now. Now, can we create other intelligent life forms? Of course, but right now, this is going to be our human, effectively, okay? This is going to be our, what is perhaps the more common, or the first, or the most ubiquitous, in some way, intelligent life form. The main characters, there you go. All right, it looks like you all would like an aquatic. And that is very small. Let's enhance. Okay. Now, let's continue. To... we have our environment. The next... Let's see. If we do this, kings play chess on fine glass stools. Kingdom, phylum... wow, why am I drawing on the kingdom, phylum, category? Kings play chess on fine glass stools. Family, fine glass, something species. Wow, I'm actually forgetting this, and I used to, even not too long ago when we first started this this workshop. Kings play chess on fine glass stools. Kingdom, phylum, kings, chess, glass. O. Something on fine. Family, glass, G. Stools is species. Class order. Yeah, thank you. So we know where they're coming from. Now, I want order, family, genus. Oh my gosh. Sorry, yeah. Well, am I a rube? Sorry about that, everyone. Thank you, Awkward Mancer. Having an aquatic origin could, in my opinion, allow more non-human humanoids, if that makes sense. Yeah, if you want things with more than just 2 legs and 2 arms or their equivalent, that's fine. Okay. Oh, there's a domain now. All right. Look, it's been a little while since 8th grade, everyone, so cut me some slack. Let's open up another poll. This one we're just going to call, all right, I'm going to leave amphibian out of this because we can give amphibious qualities to something if we want. Okay? This is going to be the type of life as we know it. We can modify things, but the general gist. This is going to be an intelligent creature which is going to be like a whatever. And if we want differences, if you vote mammal, maybe it's mammalian in many instances, but it doesn't produce milk for its children, or it doesn't have hair, or we have weird duck-billed platypus mages that are mammalian but also lay eggs and have poisonous barbs. Truth is stranger than fiction, right? Sometimes we can't ultimately categorize everything or neatly categorize everything. This is going to be a poll for the gist of the creature, okay? Everyone can vote once. What is the general type of life that you want? More of a mammal? More of a fish? That could include octopi. It doesn't have to be sharks. It doesn't have to be clams. It could be different types of fish, or cuttlefish, or it is a fish-like creature. It could be a reptile of some variety. It could be a plant of an aquatic plant of some variety. It could also be more like a bug. Although maybe bug would be like a crustacean, like a crab. Is everything a crab? Are we making crab people? Has this world actually completed carcinogenesis? And everything in the disaster led to the crabification of life as we know it. Seven people have voted with about a minute remaining. Seven people, there's 52 people watching and only 8 now. 8 people have voted. My gosh. I know it's weird on mobile. Maybe a lot of people are watching on mobile. The poll should be located, I think, at the top of chat. Or somewhere around there. But put your vote in. Don't be scared. What are you all scared of? Come on. Lend your voice out there. Even if you're like, well, whatever. There's 100 million billion to this. But I think it would be cool if it was that. Put it out there. It's perfectly fine. All right. It looks like a plant. So we're going to come up with a a plant. An aquatic origin plant. Plant-based, anyway. Sea potato wizards. I didn't even think about plant-based. Very interesting. Mold people. Mushio says, "Not me, awkward mancer. I never changed. I'll always be a handsome young man. My mom told me so." Yeah, well, my mom says I'm cool. All right. Now, we need to... what are some other features? If we're using D&D as a reference, okay? We come over here and we take a look at... We take a look at some of the go-to features of creatures that live in your D&D world. Now, the culture can be things like names and all of this, and I'm not going to worry about all of this right now. However, something that does come up is the size. The size of the thing that we are facing. And even in our history, we've grown as a species on average. If you look at older skeletons and fossils and stuff, even if you look at just a couple hundred years ago, due to medicinal practices and access to nutrition and all this other stuff, we have grown. But we look back earlier when the atmosphere was different. We had, megafauna and other things that could survive in that time period. So, if we are going off of general descriptions of size, I don't know how this society measures weight or anything. Let's if we're gonna hearken as a reference to something like D&D or many other systems that have just a commonality, like we are medium-sized. Now, that being said, if every single one of us was 12 feet tall, that is our medium size compared to if nothing else changed. Everything else would be smaller, but that's our medium, right? So think of this as a sense of scale to other things in the world. Maybe that's a good way of approaching it. All right. So the poll is now open, everyone. You can vote. In the grand scheme of things, is our magical, well, the potential for magic, this is at least a sentient species, right? Maybe not everyone can use magic, but maybe there's a capacity for it. Are magical beings, are sentient beings primarily going to be the size of cats that could be tiny? The size of small would be like toddlers, like human toddlers. medium size, which is you know, kind of our generic average human height, which I think is like 4.5 feet to maybe 9 feet tall in D&D terms anyway. Are we large? Is everyone just a big plant person? You know, we grow them tall, you know, shot up like a weed. Maybe we're all big boys and girls. Or are we huge? Not even huge. Like, we are the whales. We are these behemoth creatures in this world. And our command of the oceans. Like, the oceans are just swarming with us as these very large plant people. We are the wall of phytoplankton. Get your votes in, everyone. Hey, 11 people voted this time. Very good. Yeah, that seems about good. All right, so most of you wanted a relatively small. Now, what does that mean? Don't worry about the exact definitions. We are talking concepts. Pardon. Well, squids would be a tiny animal. What are those called? Kind of the wavy, undulating membranes on the side of a cuttlefish. I'll just say wavy membranes. All right, everyone. So how are we going to get around? Again, we're talking in general concepts. So when I say something like tail, it doesn't have to be a shark tail or even a whale tail. But the concept is the propulsion is from the back by something that's waving, right? Do we use fins and flippers? Fins and flippers. Tentacles are like wavy membranes. Do we water jet kind of like squid? I don't know if water jets would really describe jellyfish. That might be more of like, because they like pulse and everything. Maybe. Do we use like water? Like we have a contraction of things, and we use water jets to get through. Or do we use a tail, like dedicated legs or something to flap? Are we swimming here? Are we kicking with our tootsies? Or are we undulating? Or are we... And a monoped big bane, like how a clam can get around, that would be like a tentacle, right? It reaches out its foot and it pulls itself, or it digs. That type of mobility would be like a tentacle, or like crawling on the ocean floor, like how octopi do, right? Which would be, I guess, like roots, but, you know, again, conceptually. We have a three-way tie. All right. Between fins and flippers, tentacle, or like wavy membranes, and water jets. All right, let's try and refine this, everyone. They can emulate it, Awkward Mancer, although this could also mean that there could be like climbing and crawling with tentacles too. So I would like everyone to refine your votes one more time, as we had a three-way tie. So cast your votes. Let's get more than 6 people of our 52 watching voting, hopefully. Is our primary mode of transportation fins and flippers? Like we're swimming with our kind of our arms? More like a fixed thing, like a shark or a dolphin? Well, I mean, they have their tails, but like we're kind of doing this. Tentacles or membranes? More like octopi or jellyfish, or water jets, which could be something pulsing along like a squid, right? You take in water from one end and you squeeze it out the other, and you boom, and you get out of there. Here, since we're going aquatic, I'm gonna put on some inspirational aquatic music. Get your votes in. We're almost out of time, everyone. Do we want to go fins and flippers? Do we want to go like tentacles or like an undulating membrane? Or are we using water jets? I'm not talking Blastoise that involves cannons out of its back. I'm talking about like you're squirting water out of your muscles. All right, so we have tentacles / membranes. How are we gonna... How am I gonna do this one? How am I going to do this next part? Again, as we're kind of winnowing down some classifications for how we are getting along as a sapient, sentient, intelligent life form here. Yeah, awkward mancer. Now that would make the storytelling. That would make the storytelling interesting, because how do you describe? And that's my approach. Is like, how are we describing? Whether we're writing this as a people and we're putting it in a novel, or we're pretending we're writing this as a campaign resource guide to offer our players and say, you're piloting one of these things, and this is how I'm going to describe things to you. Even before that, let's do this. I would like to know, are these creatures capable of moving and, I guess, effectively living outside of the water? Are these water-only creatures? Is there some sort of water-land hybrid? Are they water-air, where there's actually like a buoyancy? Like, because you're talking about undulating membranes or tentacles. Maybe land isn't their thing, but they have an ability to, at a certain point, like, rise up and even, like, float a little bit in the air. Are they capable of all three? And if so, I mean, we're capable of going underwater to an extent, in depth and for time. So maybe these creatures are, or maybe they're not. But I want you all to tell me. Well, I mean, it's fantasy. Ultimately, everything's possible, Big Bane, but that would be a pollen expulsion. They might be prodigious reproducers if that's the case. Cause that would be like me. you know, doing a 100-meter dash by having very happy thoughts. I mean, maybe it's possible, but what was it from Futurama? The mind is willing, but the body is unable. Mushio says cells normally used for photosynthesis have evolved to the point where they can absorb light so well they can see through a series of water-filled sacs that form a lens effect. Alright, so a water-air hybrid is the most popular. Pteronaut jellyfish in magical steampunk exoskeleton taking the first step on land. That's one small step, right? All right, so for senses, this is going to be more of a we see by. Now, this might not be traditional sight. Look at this from the point of view. You are the author of a fantasy novel describing things. Or you are facilitating a fantasy game where your players are playing these things. How do we describe what is seen by your players? Jenny says, I guess another question would be, what aquatic zone our creature evolved in? Well, that is going to be one of the options, Awkward Mancer. And, yep, and we can also put that up there as well. Okay. So, again, these are going to be concepts. You don't have to take this verbatim literally. How do our creatures see? Do we see with eyes, maybe using light? And, I mean, we can get into dark vision. Haha, I get the meme. Do we see with our eyes? Do we have something like echolocation where as we're describing things, it's more about the sounds? That kind of like Daredevil. If any of you have ever read a Daredevil comic, how he sees. He pretty much does see, but the way he interprets the noises, it makes the shapes in his mind's eye. So we have sight, but we're not using light and light receiving organs. we're using sound in sound receiving organs, but we still see? Are we using, like, we just have super finite touch senses for pressure, temperature, other tactile things? That could even be the salinity of something or the humidity of the air, something along those lines. Are we seeing primarily through here? Now, we're plants, and I get it if you're like, well, we got 2 suns. Maybe we see with light. Energy, like we see by bioelectric signals or disruptions in some natural energy source like electricity. Or do we see through magic? Maybe we are magical creatures, and things that aren't magical are... we see them because it's kind of like an opposite effect of dark vision. Things that don't resonate with magic are dark. And so, like, magic light is our light. And we can only see with magic. And so where there's not magic, and that could be creatures without magic, we might just see, who's that Pokemon silhouette or something. All right, we are going to see through tactile things. All right. Be well, Mushio. Thank you for hanging out. Yeah, micro changes in air density. Just because that's something that's like grossly foreign to us doesn't mean that that's its everyday thing, right? And dwarves have, well, in older editions, dwarves had something similar where they could always tell how deep in the earth they were, right? There was just sort of a natural pressure sense. Or a temperature sense kind of a thing. So clearly we've made sea dwarves who are mobile because of their tentacle beards, and they can see around them because they also have like a pressure and a depth sense, right? Have we made sea dwarves? Aston, hello, thank you for the first time chat. Aston _ to Awkwardmancer, more realistic for a plant or a jelly. Thank you for joining us in our workshop. We're almost finished, everyone. Hang in there. Okay. We gained sentience, we gained intelligence. Our native environment that brought forth our ability to act on thought and reason and emotion and feel feelings and make logical decisions and irrational decisions. Where did we obtain this? Just as we as a species obtained ours within Africa, and or we go to the Fertile Crescent and Mesopotamia and all that, you know, the Near East, like Africa, Near East. Have a good night, Coffee. Were we born out of the abyss? Like, we're talking the absolute depths of the absolute depths of our world. Were we in the deep sections? So maybe, you know, maybe more like in the kind of in the middle here. Were we in the continental water? And by continental, I mean there's the part above water, but there's like a shelf that extends out. That would be like a medium depth, I guess. Or in the shallows. Were we actually born, or our intelligence born? Here we go. We have the abyss. That's the black. We have the deep, the continental waters, the shallows here. Or were we some weird kind of hybrid born in the shores? Like the super shallow, the tidal flats kind of a thing. There's about 30 seconds remaining. Were we born in the abyss, the depths here? Were we born in the deep? In these continental waters? Like, so we're offshore, but it's not like 10 miles down. Were we born in the shallows? Or were we actually born on the shore in the tidal flats, kind of a thing? Yeah, there's water and we need it still, and there's still a lot of it. It's just not super deep. The shallows. Okay. From the moons. Well, it's hard to photosynthesize, but that doesn't mean that we couldn't act like other deep water plants and use a like things that live by like thermal vents, and we use like a chemical absorption as our method. And it doesn't mean that like there's still that the chemical soup of the seas can be whatever we want it to be. Like, remember, we're basing what we're imagining on things we know in our real world, but this is also a fantasy world. Yep. I mean, hey, it worked for the elves, right, Awkward Mancer? Again, in like classical D&D setting. Well, how about this, Bane? If the rotating moon is the one that can help cause tides and has a particular pull, what if our plants, who apparently are also magically sensitive, like they might have been born under the whatever the radiation, the magic emanating from this oddly stationary, from an oddly stationary moon in a geosynchronous orbit here. What if there's something where our ability to fly might be affected as this other moon? So you can fly for a bit until the moon is no longer around. And also, would we... the ring doesn't have any intrinsic magic. I guess that might play into culture then, if it's not a part of our environment where we have introduced magic to this world. Where a plant had the organs, the cells, the mitochondria, or whatever, that adapted to harness a force emanating from the moon. I thought there was some deep water stuff that was able to use chemicals from vents and such, Aston. I could be wrong. I am not a biologist. It is the mark of a true wizard to fly without the moonlight. Yep. It would probably... It might have something to do... or at least with the... If we are sensitive... tactile stimuli, which could include gravity, the other moon might not even be magic. It could just change the gravity enough such that we have an ability in the temporary environment then I want to ask one last question that I think is going to button up the major aspects of this intelligent species, okay? And this is going to play off of... well, let me find it. For any creature... whether it is sentient or not. I mean, it does take a will, so I guess it would have to be sentient creatures. The source is the moon or the moons. Adapted life is the medium. It's manifested by a will. Like, you have to... It fulfills a purpose. Like, a direction of your will. Which it could be an emotive reflex. It could be not an implication, an application of your desire. But it does actually take some kind of cognizance. That being said, in many other games, again, I'll go back to D&D, theoretically, everyone could be a wizard that doesn't have an actual impairment, like a cognizance impairment, to be able to learn math and reading, right? As that's what the magic is in D&D. It's being able to draw shapes, read letters and numbers, and maybe speak a language or something here. But is the manifestation of magic Okay, in our society, because we are going to be building a society, and this is why it's kind of a bigger point. In a general concept, the manifestation of magic is going to take will So something to use magic at all in our world must be able to apply will. Sapience, sentience, maybe a bit of both. And I want you to tell me, and I'll read this out first so you can think about it for a moment, because I only have a timer up for, I'll put it to 3 minutes just to be safe. Is this going to be will plus some kind of mental threshold? You just have to reach a particular maturity, intelligence, a certain emotional intelligence, not just an intellectual intelligence. So yes, you can apply your will, but maybe a baby can't just will food into its mouth. Now that's a human term. We're talking about a plant that processes things, but differently. But you know, there actually has to be a threshold of some kind, emotional, logical, whatever. Is it going to be will plus some people have the biology and some people don't? So yes, you have to have will, but sort of like how Big Bane said, yeah, I'm that person who doesn't get allergic to or doesn't have a rash from poison ivy. That's a magic spell. Big Bane is practicing magic. So Bane has like a circle of protection poison ivy up at all times. And so Bane can exert his will as well as has the biology for it. Although in this case, it's not just life that adapted to as a potential. We're talking the manifestation of magic, or the implementation. I'll change it to implementation. So we have will plus mental threshold, will plus biology or some organ, will plus environment, when the moon is right. So everyone can hope for, you know, damn you ice cream, come to my mouth. Stewie from Family Guy. Everyone wants ice cream in their mouth, but if you want it to happen magically, you gotta wait until the moons are right, or something like that. Something environmental. It could be light, it could be a lunar cycle, it could be, there has to be like a ring dust that is coming down, like the spores in Pern. Will plus a thing. Everyone, like, you can imply your will, but you have to be holding... Do I have, I'll use this. I've used this before. You have to be in contact with laskinite. A metal, a gem, a wand, an orb, a moon fragment, right? A special rock. Is it through will plus thing? Or is it just will and everyone's magical? And why not? As long as you can apply, and so that means that if there are sentient people born without it, or even it might be more dangerous, as babies at a certain point might have this heap paradox of will for things to happen. Anyway, this is for you all to decide. The implementation of magic, and this is the poll that is open now. The implementation of magic is will plus some sort of cognizance threshold, will plus some genetics, biology, and organ, and maybe not everyone has it. Or in the society, they're like selectively like, oh, the ruling families all, you know, as ruling families have for quite some time in order to, you know, to keep the bloodline pure. Will plus an environmental thing. The stars are right. The moon passes overhead. Something along those lines. It honestly could be seasonal. In the summertime, your magic's stronger. There's more light. The days are longer. Whatever. Or it's by the light of the full moon. Right? Will plus a thing. It's a gem. It's a wand. It's an orb. Whatever it is, if you have the will and you have your rock, you have your wand, you have your whatever. That's magic. Or everyone has, if you have a will, that's it. It's a magical society. And that's fine. Because magic, in this case, is exceptional to us as the players or as the reader of the novel, but it's actually a very commonplace thing, and perhaps how these plants just operate and live. They use all their magic spells all the time because that's what allows the equatorial primordial man to travel north where there's less heat, and but they carry their tools with them, their furs, to stay warm because they don't have the equatorial warmth. And that's how it is. It's just, there's about a minute remaining, a little bit less, everyone. Let me know how you would like this intelligent life form. And while you do, I'll give you some inspiration here. I don't know how many of you noticed this stuff while, that's sort of up there, but, I hope that this, the little things, right? It's decoration, but I hope that this is stuff that you could appreciate. All right, with a couple seconds to go. All right, it looks like having a will to manifest, to get the magic accumulated, but to actually implement the magic, you need to have a particular biology. That's a very good question that I do not have the answer to, Big Bang. Excellent. Sharknado is real. Oh, I'm sure. If any of you have ever read up on the giant storm on Saturn, wait, Jupiter. Wow, I'm mixing up my gas giants with rings. But that red spot it's if I recall correctly, just that storm, that hurricane, for lack of a better term, is larger than our planet and has winds that far exceed anything we've ever experienced on ours. Like, you can drop the entirety of the Earth into a hurricane that would tear it apart. It's planet Earth for scale. Since I can't use metrics, I'm gonna have to measure in how many Earths can fit in a red dot on a big planet. All right, so these are the things that I'll try and type up something, like I'll fill in some gaps, but I wanted you to get, as chat here, I wanted you to have the ability to vote through the majority of our identifying features, our broad identifying features, as a sentient race of beings. And I'll type up something with a little bit more fluff and flair to it. And then what we will do, if I can speak common, is tomorrow we'll take our biology and our fundamentals here that will address our things like this, our basic needs, and we can then begin through the creation of culture work our way up so that we don't just have something that can react to stimuli, but it knows that it needs to just float around for a bit. We have things that are able to emote, to not just reproduce for the sake of the species, but to form a kind of intimate bond with each other. To have the building blocks of a society that will engage in technology and transportation and economics. Even if you're trading pine cones for squirrels because barter is the best you got, that's still a form of economics. What kind of things can lead into a religion? Into what would be a sense of friendship with these people? And we get cues like that in various prompts and notes in the player's handbook, other systems, or even other books within D&D that just describe a different type of dwarf, a different type of elf or whatever, and how they get along, or, you know, some various social cues there. So I'm going to give you something along these lines that is going to give a very broad outline of this starting people, and we're going to use this and build out from there. Oh, yeah, then, yeah, there you go, Rip Artist. That is correct. I'm glad I didn't remember too poorly. Makes me wonder if our creature evolved the ability to float just to survive the storms. These are the questions to ask, right? So we know that we have it, and our creative minds have to now fill in the blanks. So we go from primordial soup, and now we know we have somewhat octopi / jellyfish style plant creatures that can also float, or at least fly somewhat. Now we got to connect them, and that's where us, as a cognizant species, we fill in the gap. We fill in the unknown with what we think it might be, or something reasonable, so we can banish fear or uncertainty with at least something that makes sense to us right now. So that is Game Maestra Jenny. You are spot on, and that plays into our natural need to fill in the blank. We have our origin and we have our endpoint, and now we need to find out, you know, where is the connection, where are they meeting? And because it exists, we know everything else must exist up to this point that allowed it. And that gives us a lot of creative freedom. Because I might be talking about the oceans of this world, and you go, "Oh, I live in Louisiana, and I know the Gulf of Mexico." Okay, well, I mean, that is certainly a body of salt water, but what if this salt water actually has an average temperature that is, 10 degrees lower. The oxygen level is 3 times higher, and the salinity is twice as much. Do you really know? And now someone might go, well, that's not quite like the Dead Sea, but I know about the increased salinity and how buoyant it makes things. So there are infinite variables that we may not always know at any point in time, but we still see that things exist and work. And if we know these things exist and these things work, everything in our fantasy world, it has to be what it is for these things to exist. And it sounds plausible. It sounds reasonable. Even if it is fantastic to us on Earth, we're not playing on Earth. And we're definitely not playing humans. And so the things that these people value are... This is going to be a fun experiment. And again, why I didn't want to just make... Well, we made a world and it has humans and elves and dwarves too. Like, I mean, that's my primary D&D homebrew world. So I'm not saying that in a derogatory fashion. But here, the extra challenge is there's probably going to be noticeable differences in the values that these people have over the things that we value. All right, I'm going to take us onto a raid. We're going to return a raid in which Robert Hartley, GM, came to visit us. And so let's go raid Robert, see what he's up to. He is doing some workshopping as well. And we'll find out the characters he's making. Is it for an upcoming game? Is this practice? Is he challenging himself to something? But Clicker, good morning. I'm sorry, it's a hello and goodbye. I hope you like this. And I'll have something fun typed up for you tomorrow. And we're going to make a rudimentary culture for these people based on their environment and biology, right? The monkeys in 2001: A Space Odyssey had bones and rocks, and they used that, and we went to space from that moment. So let's get our bones and our rocks together. Let's set up the foundations of our culture, and then in our next week, we're going to drive it home with some more advanced cultural things. So I'll see you down in Australia, everyone. Be well. I'll be on Discord for a bit, too, if you need me. We'll be back tomorrow for some more workshops. Thank you very much.